Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sim Racing Alliance. We are here with Season 10 and Round 1.
Boogity, 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 let's go racing as the green flag jumps.
Looking maybe even full wide.
They're fanning out, there's a bit of contact. He's got the outside.
Side, that's a great move.
He's got plenty of speed in there and he's being held up.
He's gonna have a better run. Yeah, it's gonna stick it on the outside.
Well, that's a late move. 296 Ferrari, though, finds a space.
He didn't have it.
We're on the way for SRA.
Welcome again, racing fans, to the Sim Racing Alliance. I'm Andrew. I'm joined by Adam Santana tonight. We're on a bit of an improv play here for Division 1, but still excited for Round 3. It's Suzuka. This was the first time, actually, Adam, you may recall, back in Season 9. It was Suzuka the first time that we commentated together, so imagine that.
It was. We're running it back. We weren't planning on it, but we're very happy to be doing it.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we'll get right to the chase here. Division 1 coming into this track, very tight and technical, and with a lot of legendary corners. I mean, so much so that I barely even had to do any research for the track map on this one. Of course, you got that Sector 1 defined by the 7 turns that make up the S's here, leading up through Dunlop Curve into Degna 1 and 2. Hairpin, obviously, followed by the long sweeping right-hander over into Spoon Curve, and then the ever-so-famous 130R, 3.6 miles, 18 turns in total. And I have to say, I am quite looking forward to this one. Very tight and technical, as I mentioned before. Barcelona was a bit of a more balanced track. Imola, I would say, was one of the more challenging ones, but this should make for the best racing if I had to take a guess.
Yeah, and truly your point of saying that you don't even have to look at anything on this track. This track is one of, if not the most iconic tracks in racing. It's that special. So it's no wonder that we're back here so quickly again, because it really does. It's super challenging. It's not the easiest track to overtake on, but we're gonna see some overtaking tonight. I'm sure of that.
I am very much looking forward to it. And speaking of people who are very much looking forward to opportunities to get back in the running, you can see at the top of the list here, this is our Team Series standings for the Drivers' Championship so far in Division 1. Mia Rose tying Michael Menning after Michael Menning suffered a DNF in Imola last week. So a bit of a shock performance there. He qualified rather low down, didn't practice as much for that week. So a bit of an explainer on that one. But Mia had a phenomenal outing with the triple, the pole position, the fastest lap, and the win of the race. But of course, you know, Michael Menning and Mr. Sir still the ones to look at. Nate Specht was leading the Silver Championship up until the point where he got promoted, sitting up there at 92 points, tying Jeff Spangler. So some good looks for some of those in the top. Adam, I'm sure that you recognize some of the names looking down the list here. Dominic Duran down there in 11th, still worth noting. Kelvin Lau in a similar boat. Omar Escorcia is one that I wasn't so familiar with at the outset of the season, but has certainly made a name for himself. So we're kind of tracking a couple of different stories looking down the list here. Dan Cran, Travis Robinson also kind of going at it there in the middle of the pack for the gold, starting to intertwine with the silvers. Jason Allen, of course, our esteemed admin, or at least one of our admins.
We'll try not to curse him tonight.
Try not to curse him tonight. Sitting down there, actually getting a little bit in the fight for the silvers. So nice to see a little bit of that. We'll take a look here at page 2 as well of the driver's standings. Can give you more of a complete idea. Roy K down there at 29th, as I mentioned before. I very much look forward to seeing how he does in the future. Mikhail Charles had a bit of a bender on the last 2 rounds, so he's looking for an improvement as well.
Yeah, Roy Key, your old nemesis.
Indeed.
Yeah, and one I would like to bring up, I believe he missed the first race and then raced at Imola, was Estefano Barrera, who is an incredibly fast driver. I have had the joy or misery of being lapped during many an endurance race by him and his teammates. So yeah, I think he's one to keep an eye on. I think he could be one that could possibly fight for the championship.
Yeah, lots of really high-quality drivers, of course, in Division 1, but a couple of newer names. Jacob Palmieri kind of joins that list. He's out right now as we're starting to see the first outlaps on the board. We did kind of skip over the team standings right now. It's still early in the season, but all you need to know is that Mr. Sir and Michael Menning are topping the table for that one, followed shortly by Mia Rose and Jeff Spangler for We're a Barbie Team, which may be objectively one of the better team names on the season in any division, full stop, I have to say.
I think I would agree with that, and it's not out of the realm that, and they're going to hate me if I don't say it, that Madhouse could go 1, 2, 3 in the team series. I think they're 1, 2, and 4 right now, which is kind of crazy just to begin with. But I mean, the Madhouse D1 teams are stacked right now.
Oh yeah, and you know what? It looks like I've actually caught on with the free practice. I expected that this was the qualifying actually, so we will take a look at the team standings after all. So we'll go ahead and cut away from that as they kind of pull in as the checkered flag flies there in Suzuka. I suppose I probably should have included into that because of the conditions of the track. Very, very dark out there right now. It is supposed to be a daytime race. I know that the qualifying conditions, especially if anybody out there has been doing hot laps on the practice server, you know, for quali, it's been quite cool temperatures with only a fast track as well. So that's really going to mix things up for qualifying.
Yeah, unfortunately, it'll maybe put our, well, not maybe, it will definitely put our silver drivers at a slight disadvantage, especially early on in the qualifying, but I think they can maybe cope and get it option, but I mean, the Golds are certainly going to have their pick of the better track. So we'll see how that shakes out, especially now with Nate Speck getting bumped up. I know he was mixing it up close to the top the first 2 races, but we'll see if any of these other silver drivers can do it. There's certainly still some very, very quick drivers in silver.
I'm just looking at this list on the team standings as well. I'm suddenly noticing that with Nate Speck being bumped up into the gold category, our highest placing Pro-Am team is Hoonigans D1 with Victor Diaz and Travis Robinson down there in 13th place with 73 points, which is a bit strange to me, but I guess...
yeah, the D1 drivers kind of went Noah's Ark style with gold and silver. That's very strange. There's a silver pairing above the first gold silver.
That's exactly what I was looking at. But what an odd coincidence, but
it really is.
But yeah, there's the team standings. One that I'm looking at specifically, this race I mentioned, Jacob Palmieri. He's had a suboptimal, I would say, time so far in Division 1. I would really, really love to see him have a solid performance out today. But Suzuka is a bit fickle at times. It's impossible to say whether or not he's going to have a good experience. I mean, that really goes for anybody. But I do feel like that this is one of the tracks that makes for better racing as opposed to some of the ones that we've had so far this season.
Yeah, I agree. And it's one that I think most people, if you ask them what their favorite track is, or favorite tracks, it's going to be at the top. And a note on Jacob Palmieri, if my memory serves correctly, he is maybe still within like his first 6 months of sim racing, or at least still within his first year. I know when I was racing against him at D2, he was still fairly new. So I think it's one of those things where he's obviously incredibly quick, but that consistency can sometimes be hard to come by, and I think Jacob will figure it out.
Well, yeah, consistency, but I mean, you know, even just putting yourself in a race condition, right? Of course, it's a lot easier to hot lap. Everybody knows this, but you don't find yourself in Division 1 without at least being somewhat competent in the racecraft. So I would by no means venture to say that Jacob Palmieri is a bad racer, but he certainly is very pacey when it comes down to putting down laps, lap after lap. But it can, of course, be more challenging when you've got other people on the track who are trying to stop you from moving forward. We saw that in Imola, actually. It went for a move on somebody. Move didn't quite get pulled off and ended up losing 2 positions as opposed to gaining 1.
Yeah, and again, that's maybe experience. But yeah, I mean, back to your point, I mean, you don't find yourself in D1 on accident, unless you're me, and then you somehow get 2 seasons there. You just kind of just try not to embarrass yourself. But speaking of the Suzuka of it all, my very first race in SRA was at Suzuka. and I murdered a man into deck 1 and got myself a nice 30 plus 30 penalty. 30 second plus 30 second penalty. So
There you go. There you go. That's a good. I'm not sure if I would say it's a good memory.
It's a cautionary tale.
A cautionary tale. We're about to see the first flying laps start here. It's going to be Bailey Kish leading us across the line with Jason Allen, his teammate, shortly behind. So we'll see what the Lamborghinis have to bring to the table. You can see on the track map there, many cars starting to queue up. And what are we expecting here for the first couple of laps? I mean, 158 high, I feel, is going to be a pretty moderate time, honestly, for Division 1, which is a bit ridiculous to say because looking at the Hot Lap leaderboard, I think the best time is a very, very high 1 minute and 57 set by Michael Menning. So for 158 high to be the initial laps, I would not be surprised. Once that track ticks over to optimum, things are going to really start to speed up.
Yeah, I think it will depend how quick the track can develop for these silver drivers. I would imagine if they can get the track optimum, they'll get into the 58s. If anyone was watching the SRO esports IGTC over the weekend, or I believe the qualifying was done last Friday, Michael was doing the qualifying for his team and he was in the 57s pretty comfortably. Obviously that was on an optimum track. I believe at one point he said in the SRA Discord that he had a 57.2 on the Delta. I don't know if we'll get there tonight, but I think a low 57 is certainly on the cards for him.
That's just insane stuff here.
It's pretty incredible how fast our drivers in SRA are getting, to the point where they're fighting with the world's best drivers. Yeah. So that's currently where SRA is getting to, which is exciting to see.
Yeah, we're still not seeing anything particularly amazing in terms of deltas, mostly because the drivers have not completed their first flying laps. I believe we're on board here with Bailey as he goes through the triangle chicane, maybe taking a little bit much of that inside curve on the first apex, but gonna start tearing it down the line here through the main straight. 4 minutes already off the clock here on the qualifying session, so you're probably going to get 2 or 3 more laps here as the first one goes on the board. A 2-minute point 5. Jason Allen coming across the line shortly behind, only at 2-minute 1 flat, and I should know that's a 2-minute 1.000. Not exactly an expected kind of lap time. And Colin Dunham will go to the top of the pile, but these are not as impressive as I was expecting for the initial runs.
You know what, with it being dark, and the track isn't particular. I mean, 20 isn't terribly cold, but and as Wilson puts in a 1, which is certainly closer to what we would kind of expect for a banker lap. Yeah, with the fast track, with the lower temperatures and it being dark, I wonder if they're just having real tire warm-up issues.
Could very well be. This second flyer is more likely than not going to be much, much quicker. Andrew Wilson placed himself on P2, already about 3/10 up here through the first couple of S's, not even out to the Dunlop curve yet, and here we go. We're going to be standing on the power in that McLaren, likely in third gear, trying to get that traction down, of course, as you mentioned, on the cold track. Still losing out on a little bit of grip. Techno 1 trying to brake as late as you possibly can, take all of that exit curve, just barely keeps that one valid, maybe a little bit wide for Techno 2, but still a fair improvement here.
Yeah, fairly in control. I feel like maybe could have extended a little more in Degner 1, but I think at this point, I think a lot of these drivers are thinking this lap is the actual banker lap and not the previous lap.
Yeah, I'm seeing a couple of improvements of half a second further down the field. I'm going to go on board with Max Simons in towards Spoon Curve right about now, looking to be gaining a ton of time on the power here in the Porsche 992. Maybe a little bit of a traction loss there on the exit, but still going to be looking towards the 159s for this lap. If he can get the braking zone right, 130R can be a huge challenge for drivers. He takes it nice flat out on that one, maybe a little bit conservative, standing on the brakes just before the 100 board starts and in towards the triangle chicane. Again, those curves can be quite difficult to get traction off of, but if you can do it right, you can save a fair bit of time down towards the line.
And he picked up a pretty good chunk in 130R, but lost a little bit in the triangle. But still looking at a good improvement, going to be around provisional pole. Yeah, 300's off. Not too shabby. Still a lot of green going on. Boy, I haven't watched enough D1.
Yeah.
As the Sainz or Saints goes P2, Diaz goes P3. Our good friend Victor Diaz.
Here comes Landon Drebes across the line as well, out of the Casio triangle, and he's got a fair improvement as well. Across the fake timing line, across the second fake timing line, and finally to the finish for P2 over the line. Only 400ths faster than Brooker Quigg.
Man.
But the times are starting to tumble a reasonable amount here. Jason Allen has yet to set, I would say, a quote-unquote respectable lap time. Of course, I'm talking about this in the context of Division 1. I mean, these are lap times. They're bankers. I mean, this is his banker lap, a 2-minute 1 flat. His very first go out is faster than the pole time that I set in Division 6 in Season 9. So let's just put that in perspective.
Yeah, and I mean, I think if you asked any of these drivers right now that are on track, have you put in a good lap right now? So I would say for the conditions, yes, but overall they would say absolutely not. But I think that's just, and Suzuka does have a generally lower grip track surface than some other tracks do. So that's obviously a bit more amplified when the track isn't optimum, but I'm still surprised that we're still in the high 59s.
This is going to be a really good improvement here for Jason Allen. Still some time to be found almost surely, but low 2-minute on the table. That puts him up in 8th place. Andrew Wilson is actually on a major flyer right here over the triangle chicane. It looked like it was almost a little bit too much curve. He's actually going to lose some time. It was about 5/10 up when I got on board and has lost a couple of those now, but still improving on the current provisional pole time to a 1:59.45.
That's a little bit closer, and I will say that line that he took through the second part of the Casio Triangle, I noticed during the IGTC SRO qualifying that the McLaren drivers, that is the line they take through the chicane, where they essentially, I don't know how they stay valid, but they essentially are cutting over the grass. Oh, who was that was off?
I think there might have just been an invalid lap for that driver, but Colin Dunham was actually up there into the dot curve,
there was a
out.
really quick flash. I think it was a BMW. It might have been guy, man. I don't know who it was, but it looked like there was a car stopped in the gravel.
That might have been Zach Martin, who is yet to.
That would make sense.
Set an amazing time sitting in the pits right now. The only silver driver, actually, Gustavo Sanz just went into the pits as well. So perhaps they're happy with their lap times. I mean, if you invalidated on the last lap here, there is only 10.5 minutes to go on the silver quali. So it could very easily be that they invalidated the last lap, decided, you know what, let's just call it quits and maybe give myself an extra minute or so to think about my setup for the race. The track has ticked over to optimum though, so if you're not on a flyer right now, that's certainly going to help. I see a yellow flag. That's Jose Guzman who's in the wall and will be done with their qualifying, down at 14th of 16 silver drivers on the grid today. That's not so great.
Yeah, and to go back and confirm, I went into the replay, and that was Zach Martin that was off that we saw. They went off just in front of the car that we had been following at that point. And then he returned to the garage immediately after.
Next Simons with a bit of a time improvement here. I don't think this is going to be a position gained, but at this point, just getting any little bit is going to help. Does improve. Still about 100th off of P2. I'm noticing, I just missed it as I went across the line. I believe that was Danny Durant's improving.
Ramirez, the 447 Ferrari, who I believe that we can see that in the background, is half a 4/10 up. That'll be quite a few positions.
Ramirez does go up
P9
into P9, and I'm on board with Brian Ryder as they finish the last of the silver qualifying laps. 2 minutes flat, 0.067. Not necessarily incredible. I must say, again, I expected a little bit faster in sum total out of Division 1. Even with the track conditions.
I thought even with the fast track we would see someone get it into the 58. So I think, and this might be true across all divisions, we're going to see some much slower qualifying times than we're expecting. But we'll see. You know, the gold drivers are going to come out and they could just start ripping 57. So we'll see in 8.5 minutes. We'll check back in.
Yeah, well, I do want to check something. I believe Jacob Palmieri, who we're on board with right now, is the one leading the golds out. So I want to check, just real fast, I'm going to go onto the Hot Lap leaderboard for the season, and I noticed the purple sector time for this session was a 40.03 for Sector 1. That's through the S's. The purple sector time on the Hot Lap leaderboard of 39.57. So in like-for-like conditions, that is a shockingly slow showing. Again, for Sector 2, 6/10 slower is the purple Sector 2 in comparison to the best Sector 2 on the Hot Lap leaderboard. So I am a little bit uncertain. Of course, I'm comparing these against Michael Menning. I'm comparing them against Eric Marecki, both of which are Division 1 gold drivers. So you do expect a slight pace differential there. But yeah, that's a lot of time between two sectors.
That is, and I mean, the grip does build up over the course of the practice servers running. But over the course of, I can't remember if the qualifying servers run for an hour and a half. I think they run for an hour. I don't think you could pack as many laps into that as you would have for half of the division qualifying. It's certainly possible. But yeah, I think that's a tall order. So yeah, we could just be seeing maybe the track started with lower grip than maybe other times it would have. But yeah, like I said, I'm very surprised at those qualifying times.
We'll have to wait and see what the gold drivers do for us. Jacob Palmieri, like I said, representing Madhouse Racing, was the first out, and I believe with good reason. You know, as I mentioned, it's been a sour story for this driver so far in the season. And having a solid qualifying here would certainly pay dividends, so you want as much time out on the track as you possibly can. Be the first one to try to eye up how much grip there is available. Of course, when you do have Michael Menning out on the circuit as well, you're gonna have that hanging over your head. Menning, who I believe is just now starting his first flying lap, so perhaps trying to give the rest of the field a little bit of a chance to get their fingers on the tarmac, so to speak. Oh, that's a huge spin for Jacob Palmieri.
No!
In the Mercedes, and that is not a good way to start your qualifying session.
I was just about to say him making the conscious decision to line up first, to be out first was maybe I go out there, I have nothing in front of me to distract me, and then, oh man, that's unfortunate. At least, if you're going to make a mistake, that's the time to make it. He can still return to the pits, come back out, and set some laps. But right now, if he comes out, he's just going to be he's going to be in traffic. So that will be something he'll have to contend with, as well as he's going to have to concede for any driver that passes him.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a massive hit to the mental, I can tell you for free. As we do see three gold drivers immediately take top three spots.
Yeah, Nordstrom 59-0. Yeah, I mean, that's not on the banker lap. That's not what I expected the silver drivers to be doing, but that's we're about where I thought we would be by the end of the silver qualifying.
Here's Mia Rose with the new It's a Barbie team livery. We're a Barbie team livery, which does look quite good. I have to say, big fan of the rear wing. This
Absolutely huge fan. We love to see it.
Mia Rose, who did just go into P5, was your pole sitter for the last race, but as a reminder, we did not have Michael Menning qualify very highly on that one. I believe the story actually was that Menning qualified on race fuel load, so that may also be a bit of an explainer on that one.
It was, I'm tipping hands, I have inside information.
Ooh.
Unless he changed his mind, it was a conscious decision.
Right. Just trying to have a little bit of fun with it, but now with a very real championship rival, although it is early in the season, so it's impossible to say with much certainty right now. Ooh, that maybe a bit of a wide moment there for Eric Marecki. Let's keep it valid, but losing some time there on the Exodus boom curve. But I do wonder if Menning is going to start to take this championship maybe just the slightest bit more seriously. I actually see a couple more times.
It wasn't even really a non-serious choice. It was more of he didn't have enough time to practice. So it was, I'm going to practice race and not worry about qualifying and just qualify on race fuel, and because that's what he had been practicing, which is the safe decision. I can certainly say I've qualified on race fuel before because the car felt more comfortable. But I'm also not Michael Menning, so.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
No, last time I checked, I'm not.
This is Mr. Sir coming across the line. Did lose a little bit of time in the braking zone for the triangle chicane. Mia Rose actually is on a massive flyer right now. 7.5 tenths up out of the final turn. That's turn 17 into 18. The sweeping right-hander onto the pit straight. And this is going to be a mega improvement.
This is going to be P1 easy. 2 tenths.
Peter O'Brien coming up behind as well on a fairly sizable move up the field as well. This is 7.5 tenths of his own from a 159.8 to a 159.1. The field's starting to really feel the effects of that optimal grip track.
Yeah, what I was just about to call out, Dom Duran's about half a tenth now, half a second now, 4 tenths of a second up on a very good lap, which would, I mean, even if we kept the delta at around P3.
I still don't see Michael Menning. He's up 1.9 seconds on a 2-minute one.
Well,
so there's that. The slide there out of spoon curve. That one's tough to get the power down on, especially the McLarens. We're trying to run low traction control. Michael Menning's just gone to the top of the timing sheet with a 158.295.
That's silly. That's just silly.
And so we're gonna give the screen back to Mia Rose here for a second. I've just seen Mr. Sir has RTG'd. So Mia Rose now, the onus on her to respond. The driver from down under, 2.4 tenths up on her best time so far this session. And through spoon, I mean, it doesn't feel like there's going to be a whole lot of grip on offer, but as the track gets rubbered in lap after lap, maybe there's just a little bit more traction that you can get, maybe be on the power a little bit earlier, but it's still some time lost. And I don't think there's that much to be found in the last couple of turns here.
Yeah, Mia really was good mid-corner there, but lost on the exit, but Michael is already 2 tenths up on his previous lap.
There goes Spec. Yeah, Michael Menning, 2 tenths up on his lap. Spec goes across the line in P5. I think that was his first flyer of the day. Mia Rose is coming up to the line now, and looks like maybe saving or losing a little bit of time. Actually, it's going to be more on the lose side. That was a delta. It hopped up to 2 tenths for a second, but maybe just got a little bit too much of that curb. You were talking about the McLaren wanting to take as much curb as is possible, but let's face it, it's no BMW, it's no Mustang. No. If you don't take the curb right, then you're going to get a little bit of a bumble and you're going to lose that traction, and it's not going to go well for you.
I wonder if Mia also maybe sold on that lap, saying that she wasn't going to be close to Michael's time, but the Delta's not telling me that. For reference, on the previous lap, going into turn 1, Mia was a tenth up, and then this lap it was less than half a tenth. So I think you're spot on that. It was a little bit too much curb.
See how much of the curb Michael Menning takes. Well over it on the inside of both apexes, almost invalidating the lap, it feels like, and gets the traction down onto the exit as well. It truly is alien how he does this. This is going to be another massive improvement for Michael Menning, up to a 1 minute 57.96.
And he's I'm done. He's like, I'm good.
He knows
I'm good. Honestly, it's kind of very apt that he is running a Bullet livery. You know, if you haven't seen Bullet, please watch it. But it has one of the greatest car chases of all time. So it's very fitting that everyone is chasing the Bullet car.
From coming up through the chicane. I'm still seeing times coming down, as well as the checkered flag is now out. Mia Rose is improving. I don't think it's going to make a world of difference. I think that she's got P2 pretty well locked down. Travis Nordstrom about a tenth up. Peter O'Brien shortly behind, alongside Timothy Flamger. As it looks like, I think O'Brien, nope, the checkered flag is still out, and they are still on valid improvements right now. I've just seen, I believe it was Gomer Wilson moved up a fair few spots. We hadn't had eyes on him so far. Travis Robinson on a bit of an improvement, but it's an invalid lap. So now it's all on Peter O'Brien, I think, to round out this qualifying session. Oh, Jeremy Mercer is still out there as well. Let's not forget.
A couple tenths up, and going to look at some positions. What is kind of silly, besides Michael putting a almost 3/4 of a second gap on the field, is that Mia Rose put a 2/10 gap to the rest of the field, which would, even from pole to P2, would be a silly gap in D1. So I don't think we can understate what Michael has done, because
he's insane.
Almost 8/10 of a second. It's incredible.
I feel like the show could be done now, and we would have done our job at this point. But we still got the whole race to go.
what also helped Michael is the IGTC SRO esports race was at Suzuka last weekend, so he's had plenty of practice. But an 8/10 gap to this field is incredible. Some of these drivers are some of the fastest drivers on this side of the world. So this is, and in Miro's case, one of the fastest drivers on the other side of the world. So this is pretty incredible.
Yeah, and I mean, just talking about it briefly, of course, you know, we talk about high 159s for the better part of the field, and most of the people in the SRA server, you have to push for a mid to high 159 reasonably hard. Many people can't even touch that.
Yeah.
And then here they are, you know, doing 159s with, you know, a relatively leisurely effort. And then, as you mentioned, there's Mia Rose, and then there's Michael Menning.
Exactly.
That is what it means to be an alien.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the name is apt. They're on a different world.
Lining up on the grid here. I feel like it's almost a formality to even think about it. Whoa, I think Jeremy Mercer might be having some ping issues. As he's the one I'm spectating. That is
That was very
not looking so hot. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's on my end. But we'll see what's going on. Oh, you know what it might be? I think I left my wallpaper engine on. Maybe that's part of the reason why. But in any case, Mr. Sir coming in P3 as well. You know, on the team with Michael Menning, basically just there to ensure that they take the team championship, and
which is hilarious to say because Mr. Sir is like one of the 5 fastest drivers in the series, and like he's, I don't want to say overshadowed because I think he certainly gets his roses all the time, yes. Because he is incredible. But like it just speaks volumes to Michael and how quick he is, and to I mean, not that, you know, they win every race, but yeah, this will be an interesting one. I'm a bit surprised with Barrera down P14.
Yeah, let's go down the list here and see if there's anything particularly surprising. Nate Specht up in 6th. That one kind of makes sense to me. Peter O'Brien in 7th. These are kind of expected. Something that is unexpected, I would say, is the Honda NSX up here in 4th for Travis Nordstrom. Mega driver. Don't get me wrong. This guy, if you told me that Travis Nordstrom qualified top 4, I'd be like, yeah, okay. Travis Nordstrom qualified top 4 in a field where it's dominated by McLarens, Aston Martins, and Mustangs, which are, as I can tell, very strong at this track. And then he's over here in an NSX.
Yeah, that's incredible. I didn't even clock that Nordstrom was in the Honda. That's incredible. That's an impressive lap. When I've raced here in the Honda before, it was a nightmare. It was a true nightmare.
Yeah. So just as a reminder, I just want to point out: Menning, pole position, Mustang; Mia Rose, McLaren 720S GT3 Evo; Mr. Sir in the Mustang; Nordstrom in the NSX, and then the next 3: Dominic Duran, Nate Specht, Peter O'Brien in the 720S Evo. And then you have 2 Aston Martin V8s. And then Gomer Wilson starts to break things up with the Lambo Evo 2, which isn't even a poor car in terms of performance.
No, it's pretty crazy. While we're watching this, I got a little something for our viewers. Got a huge thank you to our SRA sponsors and title sponsors. Whoops, oh my goodness, I almost lost that tab. Oh no, Adam, get it together. Huge thanks to our SRA sponsors and title sponsors for supporting us here at SRA, as well as support from Documise, a modern business solution for product management. Go to documise.com to learn more today, and support from Retro Saga, a North American-based gaming company that provides accessories for your favorite classic systems, including Nintendo, Sega, PlayStation, and much more. Enhance your retro game experience today at retrosaga.ca. And of course, a big thank you to our affiliates. First of all, it's Track Racer. Experience redefined gaming with Track Racer's high-quality sim rigs and accessories. Use code SR8, and that is SRA capitalized and then TE lowercase at checkout to support us. And then Armamentario, a toolbox for ACC that will enhance your chance to win. enjoy a fully customizable enhanced HUD to change the way you experience ACC, and Armatario is a huge fan favorite in the SRA community. 183D Sim Shop, SRA community member, and an also huge favorite of the SRA community members. Upgrade your sim racing experience with premium 3D printed accessories featuring precision crafted magnetic shifters, sleek cable management solutions, versatile stream deck mounts, and immersive dashboard displays. Their innovative designs enhance performance and style. Elevate every lap with top-tier quality and craftsmanship at at3d.net. Where are we at on the lap? Okay, we got time. Go Setups. Premium esports setups for everyone. Use our affiliate link on our Discord and take your drive to the next level. And last but certainly not least, Castle and Cauldron, a home-based crafting business specializing in handmade Harry Potter, Fantastic Beasts, and Fairy World collectibles, magic wands, potions, mini dioramas, wall decor, costumery, cosplay, and much more. Castle and Cauldron is where crafting meets the magical. Visit them at facebook.com/Castle and Cauldron.
My God. Is it over finally?
I could do a couple more.
We got so many affiliates and sponsors and all these things, and so many of them are such high quality things. I mean,
I think it speaks volumes to the community that this many people want to be affiliated.
Oh yeah, for sure. When are we gonna get the we gotta get the triple stint racing gloves out here as well. I'm gonna you know what, I'm making this my personal ad slot is the triple stint racing gloves. Highly recommend as we get ready to go green here. I should probably keep it short.
He needs to fork over the cash to get in the ad read.
But he
I'm
does.
calling you out, coach. I'm calling you out.
Here we go, prepping for the green light. It's Michael Menning leading from Mia Rose. Mr. Sir closely behind. Travis Nordstrom, watch out for that Honda NSX in P4 right about now. And it is looking like the last car is coming through the last turn right about now over the timing line. As we get underway here at Suzuka, green flag is being waved, and it looks like it's going to be a decent launch for everybody just about in the top 5. You can see Travis Nordstrom trying for the outside line here against Mr. Sir. It's not going to quite pan out. Timothy Flanger with a little bit of contact there against Eric Marecki, who is trying for the outside on turn 2, and it does look just about like we get through everything fairly cleanly up and down the field. The S's are going to have some more contact, though. Timothy Flanger and Eric Marecki just going at it here in the midfield.
At least from the start, our first 3 rows all had pretty equal starts. But of course, that inside line has the advantage and well behaved throughout the field so far. A lot of 2 wides, not 3 wides.
Then one's going to have some action as well. Andrew Wilson is looking to get a little bit of a move up the field here in that McLaren. I think may have lost a position there against Gustavo Sanz just in front. There's a lot of motion down the field. We're trying to catch it all, and you can see 2 wide through Degna 2. It's not necessarily the spot you want to be in. Brooker Quigg on the inside here of Landon Drebes, and I think Landon is going to have that move just about done into the hairpin, but there's a slow car in front. Going to try for the outside line is the Audi, and there's contact in front even as the car gets run off the road, and I think Wilson is going to have that spot back because of a little bit of divine intervention further up the field.
Yeah, that was a huge checkup there in the hairpin. I'm not sure what started it, but we certainly saw how that affected the drivers lower in the field.
Matt Lehman up the inside. That's Brian Ryder and the exit of Spoon, and Matt Lehman getting very familiar with the left-hand side of Dominic Durance, who has a bit of a Danny Durance, who has a bit of a moment there. Omar Escorcia being taken by Brooker Quigg down here on the straight leading up to 130R for the first time. I see Timothy Flanger and Jeremy Mercer further up the field are going at it a little bit. That's a Lamborghini well off the track and is going to lose a handful of positions.
Yeah, I believe. Oh. I believe that was Gomer Wilson, or it could have been Jason Allen. Both of them were dropping positions.
Do you think it was Gomer?
Oh, you're on it. It was. I think it was Gomer, as you were highlighted on it.
Yep. Here again is Omar Escorcia on the main straight here. Lost that position to Landon Drebes a little bit earlier on. Now in towards turn 1. Does not have an opportunity to make a move on the 992. couple of different lines that you can take through that area, but certainly not very many lines that you can take through the S-curves. I mean, on lap 1, right after the race start, maybe you'll have a bit of an odd shot, but certainly not at this stage of the race. I see a little bit of a side-by-side here. That's Matt Lehman again looking up the outside of Jason Allen through this curve. Danny Durant still kind of leading this little train into the Dunlop bend towards deck 1 and 2.
As best as I could tell, we were swapping positions. Not all 4 of the drivers, but there were quite a few positions swapped between turns 1 and the end of the S's.
Yeah, like I was saying, it's very, very difficult to get all of the eyes on all of the positions here. I wish we had like more overhead shots that were available to us, but we're trying our best. It looks like most of the field is still staying pretty scrunched up. Mia Rose has not become too dissociated with Michael Manning. I have been keeping an eye on that gap, but you can see here Manning with almost a 1-second gap to Rose behind. Mr. Sir staying related to this one as well. That's Travis Nordstrom who's starting to drop off the back of the P3 driver right now. So the podium positions look like they're going to be set in stone for at least a reasonable period of time, unless somebody makes a sizable mistake. I'm seeing a lot of invalid laps down the list. I'm wondering if drive-thrus are going to be a factor in this race.
Yeah, and that will... it certainly could be, because this track, it's very easy to get cuts. The exit of Dagna 1.
Danny Durant, I just went on board with Danny Durant. I believe that was out of 130R. I saw the gap coming down, swapped onto the 72's cam, and he was round.
Oh, I wonder if he got a helping hand there. Considering ended up, I believe he was at the wall on the right. That makes me think that he maybe got a little tap into 130R, but that's hard to tell. I can...
I mean, it's a similar situation to what we saw with Jacob Palmieri in qualifying, but I think you're probably right.
Yeah, let me hop into the replay and check that real quick.
I'm staying on board with Jacob Palmieri right now, trying to get around Guy Manperson, but again, the S's are not a particularly favorable place to do so. Jacob Palmieri, who has moved down 6 positions since the start of the race. It is, again, an event insofar to forget. I see Colin Dunham with Max Simons as well. That's getting a little bit argy-bargy through Degnas 1 and 2, and Dunham, it shows, lost that spot, but I'm not sure if that was a net gain or a net loss in towards the hairpin. It's going to be a little bit complicated with 3 cars in very close proximity. There might be a little bit more added into the mix with a couple behind. That's Brooker Quick in the Audi, and Landon Treves trying to get involved. Maybe a little bit of contact, but maybe a bit of net code on my end. That looked like it would have been a big spin. Guy Manperson being taken by Jacob Palmieri just a little bit further down in that flat-out zone in towards the spoon curve. That should be the move done.
Yeah, Palmieri really making up for the disappointing qualifying. And to give a confirmation, Durant, he had what looked like a tank slapper mid-corner 130R, which is why he ended up going out wide.
Yeah. Well, if I had to choose one place that I would not want to be touched in the middle of a racetrack, it would definitely be 130R. I don't think that's a very good spot. Ooh, that's Brooker Quigg, who I believe has just had to take the runoff there through the triangle chicane. Probably missed their braking zone, and the rejoin is safe, but that's 5 positions immediately lost, and there might have been a little bit of a shakeup for some of the cars. You can see Landon Treves is forcing a defensive shape there out of Dunham just ahead. They know that they're at a bit of a disadvantage with the slipstream in favor of the 992, but it looks like that McLaren will just about stay ahead.
Yeah, well judged and well held there. To take that slightly defensive line late and to hold that inside line, which is always going to be it's going to be the better line in turn 1. But if a car can get fully alongside in turn 1 on the outside, they can turn that into the inside going to turn 3.
Lots of smaller trains starting to form up through the field. I don't know if you have your race control open right about now, but it does seem like there's a bit of a break in the action for a couple of drivers, but most of them are involved in some variety of fight. I've just seen a little bit of motion on my race control, but I think that might be a bit of a glitch. So I'm going to stick on right now with Guy Manperson, who is still chasing down Jacob Palmieri to try to make that return move.
Yeah, race control showed me 4 drivers all dropping positions to 1 driver at one time.
I'd like to think is that was Guzman, who gained 5 positions, I think, in a fraction of a second in the back of the field, which, as much as I want to believe that was driver ability, I don't really think that's possible.
No, I'm gonna put an eye on that, because I would certainly like to see. I think that was maybe a weird ACC issue.
Oh, here we go. Somebody's going to have to back out of this one. This is Estefano Barrera up the inside of Peter O'Brien through 130R. The McLaren goes well wide up the track. The Ferrari even follows suit into the breakings over the Casio Triangle. And I think they're going to stay as they were. No surprises there. Gustavo Sanz, into the back of Andrew Wilson in front. That McLaren is completely sideways, and that's going to be both of them moving down the order.
Oh, man, I was watching that replay, so I missed exactly what happened, but I mean, I saw the aftermath, and that is so unfortunate for, oh my goodness, say his last name for me.
Sanz.
Sanz.
It's like Sainz, except the I quit its job.
Yeah, it's locked in now, Sanz.
That was, I mean, it's just a moment of, you know, trying to be as late on the brakes as you can, and following a car in front, you want to try to preserve as much advantage as is possible, especially the Mercedes probably have an advantage in the straight, on the pit straight, that is to say. But he played a little bit too too close to the chest in. That'll happen.
I think you hopped onto the halfway of the train, but there is a very large train forming up behind Colin Dunham in P18.
Indeed.
Down to Lehman, but I mean, Wilson's not far off the back of that either. So it's essentially almost a 20 driver chain at this point.
Insane. And Brooker Quick has been involved in many an action-packed moment so far. Not the least of which might be this one. A little bit of wheel spin out of the R8. It looks like Lehman's not going to be able to quite capitalize on that one. Estefano Barrera is looking to have a go at Peter O'Brien once more in towards 130R. The Ferrari looking for that slight little bit of better traction. He might just have about found it, but I don't think there's going to be a run against the 114 in front. I just seen Roy Kay has actually dropped down a fair few positions. I think that might have also been one of those moments from race control, but Matt Lehman has suddenly made it past Brooker Quick, unless memory fails me, and this was the order that they were in before.
No, I believe Lehman was even further up than that.
Oh, and they're gonna try. Brooker Quick showed the outside line to 130R. That's not gonna work unless you are majorly overlapping. Travis Robinson right now is getting in front of Latore, who just dropped down 2 positions. Jacob Palmieri gets past. Jacob Palmieri's up into 13th place. The last time I checked in on this man, he just passed Guy Manperson for 16th. What's happened to Jacob Palmieri suddenly?
He's a man on a mission tonight, I think.
Or that I could have all of the information injected into my brain directly, because I am missing a lot, I feel like. I
mean, you're having to pay more attention than I am, and I'm lost. Yeah, Palmieri. Race control saying he's down 2 positions. I don't think that's right. Did he really qualify
in 11th? Yeah,
down 13th?
That's what it shows.
Okay.
I
but
mean,
ever since we've been watching,
a...
he's making up grounds. He was... Last look, I mean, yeah, he's picking up positions all over the place.
Maybe he's just a little bit camera shy. We'll move on to something else. Actually, let's move on to Travis Nordstrom. I'm seeing this is a 0.2 second gap now to Mr. Sir, who this one came a little bit by surprise for me. Mia Rose trails Menning by about 3 seconds, which 12 minutes into the race might be a little bit of a surprise for Division 1, but it is Michael Menning, as we have to reiterate time and time again. That man is just out of this world in the most literal sense. Travis Nordstrom, though, 4/10s off of Mr. Sir, is definitely a story worth keeping an eye on, especially if they start getting into a little bit of a fight. Dominic Duran is only 1 second distant from this battle, with Nate Specht immediately behind him.
Yeah, we're certainly not settled for the top 5, and I want to go back and make a correction. I said I thought Lehman was ahead of Brooker Quick before that. He was not. So Lehman is also picking up positions. I think when I went to replay, he was around 25th. So up in P22, he is making moves.
Well, it's the kind of exciting racing that we were hoping for here in Japan, and I had to say it has quite delivered so far. Max Simons maybe not quite getting the traction that they were looking for there out of the triangle. Guy Manperson with the BMW in the straight line here in towards turn 1. It's looking favorable with the overspeed, but Latore sees it coming from a mile away. There's a car exiting the pit lane as well, so he can't go all the way on the defensive. Guy Manperson trying for the move up on the inside of turn 2. Can't quite find it, but the 257 has washed out wide, gaining a lot of that curb, and the BMW probably going to be a little bit more stable. Guy Manperson forcing the issue on the inside of the second of the S's, and the cars behind are closing up, trying to take advantage of the action in front. That's Victor Diaz and Max Simons, as well as Colin Dunham, and Guy Manperson finally gets the move over and done with. The 257 is still at risk, though. He's going to have to lift off of that BMW in front if they're not careful, but the Degna 1 curve should see them at least hold position with only one loss there for Latore.
What a move by Guy Manperson. That was silly. I mean, by both drivers, Latore as well. That was incredible for both of them. Almost the entirety of the S's side by side. Incredible driving.
It's not something you see often. The 444 trying for a move on the outside of a curve, which is another one that you don't necessarily see often. Colin Dunham, I mean, really, all of Diaz, Simons, and Dunham here are probably fairly disappointed that they couldn't get some sort of advantage on that massive fight ahead. But the S's are already difficult enough to go side by side through, and Guy Manperson made an incredible move to do that, but then trying to get a third car into the mix, good luck.
Yeah, and we're not quite in the pit window, but I wanted to bring it up just so we can have the information, which is pit loss time and our pit requirements. A tire change is required, but no refueling. And there's some big action there in the chicane. I think that was Max Simons getting a little bit wrong, and Barrera with the drive-through, our first drive-through of the night.
That's huge for Barrera. Looked like he was going to be a strong contender for one of the top spots, top gaining spots, I should say, in the midfield.
Yeah, and, I mean, might drop to the bottom of the, not quite to the back, but very close. That'll be hugely disappointing. But as I was saying, for the pit stop tonight, tire change required, no refueling. We're looking at about 63 seconds, roughly, of lost time in the pit lane. That is closer to a perfect pit stop, so certainly probably a little bit more than that, but these are our best drivers, so around 64, 65 seconds of time lost in the pit lane, and we'll have to keep an eye on that as we enter the pit window. I think we'll get there in about 5 minutes. We'll see some drivers considering taking their pit stop.
I've just seen Travis Robinson on the screen. I caught that delta as it was dropping. Jacob Palmieri was able to capitalize and move up into 11th position now, with that overtake being done on track, and Estefano Barrera having to go into the pits to serve that drive-through penalty. I'm also noticing Nate Specht on the back of, that's Dominic Duran. In front, Matt Lehman is again at a 0-second gap. That's Omar Escorcia on the inside of the spoon curve, going to try for a bit of a cheeky move here. He's the 67, and that looks very favorable for the McLaren right now with the extra downforce on that car. What a move by Matt Lehman.
He almost looked like he's driving a different class there. I mean, he set that up so well by lining up his exit at the beginning of spoon, but I mean, just the drive in both of those corners was incredible.
Well, that's a car off in the background I've just seen. I don't see anybody moving down the order, though.
No, I don't see it either. Unless that was...
They might have shot off the grid immediately.
I was going to say maybe it was Barrera or Ramirez at the back of the field, but neither of them are...
They're both
on at the moment, so no, they're both fine.
I will say
no idea who that was.
For the sake of those watching in the stream, my race control does not play nice with the replay function. Otherwise, I would go back and try to find that one for you. But
yeah, I'll head back in the actual replay and see if I can spot this. But I think that's gonna be. We'll see if I can find it.
I'm on with Matt Lehman again, a name that we've been saying more than a couple of times tonight, still in this train, extending from 14th down to 21st, with Latore and Escorcia bracketing that train. As Corsia all the way down the field. Not a driver that I'm used to seeing that far down at Lehman. That's a wide moment. Max Simons potentially looking for a move in towards the hairpin, but it's been an unfavorable overtaking spot so far in the race today. Especially for that Porsche, it can get a little bit temperamental on the brakes with the bias so far rearwards as you would want it, and that's a wonderful opportunity for Lennon Drebes to go through. Nice capitalization. The 328 getting a little bit aggressive against the car in front. It might even lose 2 positions for it. Colin Dunham is having a look up the inside of the braking zone for Spoon Curve, but it's just not quite there. He might still have something, though. We've already seen this one once today, and Colin Dunham is going to replicate the move that we saw earlier on. It's still going to be a battle in towards 130R, and I can guarantee that Gomer Wilson is happy to see this battle happening immediately in front. There could be a chance to capitalize on a potential mistake. It does look like they're going to follow in single file, though, and I had to say that's probably a wise decision on both their parts.
Yeah, and to give an update, I was not able to find what car that was. That is strange.
Great mysteries of our time must be. Oh, that's a car off. Who was that? I think that was Gomer Wilson, who just got spun in towards the pit lane. Might have sustained some damage and is making what I assume is a bit of an impromptu stop.
I mean, if you're going to get forced into it, I guess that's the way to do it.
Andrew Wilson up the inside of Matt Lehman. Brooker Quigg also involved in a bit of a scrap there with Jason Allen. Bailey Kish getting involved in this one, too. Jason Allen and Bailey Kish, who qualified reasonably well, I want to say, for the Silvers, but they're both up. Allen 3 positions and Kish 6, so they're certainly having a good time. But Matt Lehman, by the way, is up 7 positions right now, even with an overtake being performed against them just a moment ago.
Yeah, easily our biggest mover, but we also have Colin Dunham up 7 position. Len Drebes and Victor Diaz are both up 6 positions as well. And then Jerry Mercer, who's up from P12 to P7, is up 5 positions.
Just hopped on board as I saw it. Delta came down for Nate Specht. That was in the hairpin, and now it's Timothy Flanger up the inside of Dominic Duran, who's going to lose 2 positions in the same lap, falling outside of the top 4 down into P6.
I was totally not Neo of Dom.
Oh man, I'm glad I was able to catch that one. It feels like I'm getting every little moment right on the tail end as it happens. Nate Specht, this is just an average.
I mean, that's another position up for him. So he's still up 2. That's still considers him P4. That's about as well as you could really hope for.
Well, we did mention that this is going to be one of the better tracks for racing. And I feel like that's holding true. Maybe a little bit of a wide moment there for Colin Dunham. Max Simons still can't quite make it through on that, though. That Porsche has been having a lot of trouble. It's only down 1 position so far this race. There have been plenty of battles that Max Simons has been involved in, but just simply has not been able to move up the field so far today.
Oh, not yet. And Matt Lehman goes in the pits. Bailey Kish goes into the pits. And you have to think that Bailey and Jason maybe coordinated that. I'm assuming they are in voice chat together. I don't see anyone else. Gomer Wilson is also in the pits, but we knew that already from the lap before. Gomer was... I mean, I know there was noticeable damage on that car. I think Gomer's out of the server.
No way. Oh,
yeah,
oh, that's a big hit.
Oh, that was a big hip check by Palmieri.
Robinson looked like they had the advantage going into Degna 1. They were certainly ahead, and Palmieri, I think, realizes that was their fault, and they're going to give that space back. That's wonderful sportsmanship there from Palmieri.
Yeah. Love to see that. But that just lets Guy Manperson just cruise up right on the back of these two. And if... Oh, no, never mind. I was going to say Guy Manperson, Palmieri were teammates before, but that's not correct.
But I will tell you one thing for sure. Guy Manperson is not somebody that you want to see in your mirrors, because this is a very stressful sight indeed. That BMW is incredibly stable, especially for some of the top tier drivers. You can really throw that thing around. And Guy Manperson has been no stranger to getting the elbows out so far this race. Up 5 positions is Guy Manperson.
And that also puts Guy Manperson in the provisional win for the silver split.
Very true. I'm not very surprised by that one, especially after Nate Speck got moved up into the golds, which was, I think, a fair move. I actually see a bit of motion further down the field. That's Jason Allen and Brooker Quick going at it into the Casio triangle. Jason Allen, that's going to be a tough traction battle.
Oh,
a
no.
little bit of RG-bargy. I think that might have actually negatively impacted the R8's top end here, down the pit straight. But with the larger engine, I feel like it's going to have the move done on the inside here. Brooker Quick's taking a mightily narrow line on this one on the entrance, but Allen gives a load of space. And I think...
Not a larger engine. They run the same engine.
He's gone. Oh, and he can't save it. That's into the gravel trap.
Oh, no. I have to say, these two have a storied rivalry. When I say a storied rivalry, I mean Brooker Quigg has dominated Jason Allen in picking up Ryan Yee in Fantasy SRA.
Oh, and Quick.
Oh, no, the goes again. Oh, no. I think there's something wrong with that car at this point now. Maybe the tire's just super overheated.
They have to have been cooked at this point.
Yeah.
That's so many positions lost. I mean, from Jason Allen down. Jason Allen is in 19th position now. So Brooker Quick lost 19th and is down into 25th position at this point in time.
Man, that is a huge loss. Yeah, I think you were spot on with your deduction that just that slight hit at the exit of the chicane just put the Audi off just that enough for Jason to get alongside and stay alongside in turn one, which pushed Brooker off onto the dirty side of the grid, and that was all she wrote.
A little bit of movement. I think Guzman might have just had a bit of an off. Brooker Quigg and David Ramirez both gaining position against Jose Guzman.
Yeah, and someone else ducked in the pits. I think that was
Mercer
that
and
was
Recchi.
Spect. Wow, yeah.
So a fair few.
It seems a smidge early, but maybe let me look at the pit number count. I was thinking maybe that was in reaction, but no. Nate Speck wasn't reacting to anyone. That was
I'm seeing
Drebbies and Escorcia.
Escorcia also in the pits. I mean, with a train as large as it was in the midfield, I am not surprised to see people going for the undercut here. But I feel like for Drebis and Escorcia, they're probably not going to be too happy to see each other in the box.
No.
As they're going to have a bit of a fight on their way out.
No, I do feel like this might be an undercut track, but you never know with the way that the tire warm-up issues start. But with a little bit more of a track and the sun is fully out, warming the tires up might not be a huge issue. But we'll see how that shakes out with, I guess, especially with Spect. I don't know what the gap was decently close behind, but I don't know exactly what it was when Nate pitted.
So that's Drevis is rolling in just behind. That's Escorcia also coming out of the pit lane, but it looks like it's going to be a sizable enough gap where they'll not have to worry about each other immediately upon exiting. You look behind, though, there is some traffic coming up, and I think Landon Drevis is going to get the better of it. Omar Escorcia is going to lose a couple of positions on pit exit. That's Jacob Palmieri and Matt Lehman both going by, and Landon Drevis has gotten the best of this one with the fresh tires, more than likely going to be able to keep these guys behind.
Yeah, Drevis was... I can't remember where Landon was at when they pitted. I believe... Was Landon in front of them when they pitted?
I think so.
I believe so as well.
I can't imagine a world where Escorcia would have spent that much more time in the pit. I see the time stopped for Landon Drevis was 32 seconds versus Omar Escorcia with 33. So a very marginal pit delta for those two.
So yeah, Drevis must have been ahead of them when they pitted. There's so much going on. I have no idea what the order is.
I'm so glad that I have race control. I feel like I'm spending more time looking at my timing screen than I am at the actual race. Speaking of,
do you want some more chaos? Mr. Sir and Flomger and Jason Allen have all pitted.
I see them. Estefano Barrera is looking up the inside here of Guzman. That one's not going to happen. Had a bit of a peak at 130R, but I think that having a bit of a peak is all you really want to have at 130R if you're going to have anything.
Yeah, also Roy Key and Brian Ryder also pitted behind that group. So we're shaking right now. Half the field is pitted. almost a little over half the field has served their pit stop.
Lehman looks poised to strike here.
Oh, yep. Got to go for it. It's going to be hard around the outside. That Porsche's great on the brakes there.
Ooh, but the alternative line, the 67 is going to have the traction down just a little bit better, plus a slight switch back onto the pit straight.
Even switched back twice there. That was beautiful.
That's Landon Drebes in front. You saw it was forced to take the defensive line into the chicane, but now it's going to compromise them down the front stretch, and they're going to have to concede this position to Matt Lehman, who just needs to make sure they hold the line in the 67 McLaren. We've seen a couple of drivers now make a critical error trying to hold it into turn 2, but it looks like Lehman has got that one locked down. And of course, I say locked down in the most ginger sense because Drebes is still right up behind.
No, that Porsche is looking very, very nimble through the S's there. And if I had a hat on, I would take it off from Matt Lehman because that was a beautiful pass.
This might be a dive for Victor Diaz, but he'd have to really go for it, and he does think better of it. Maybe he'll carry a little bit more speed through the chicane. This looks like it might get complicated for Diego Latorre. This is for a top 10 spot. I thought that was a major mistake. And
So did I.
oh, that's a huge move. You saw that. That was Colin Dunham. Wonderful awareness there.
I do wonder if they sped over the pit line though.
We'll have to wait and see. I think they got it slowed down, but they saw there was a tiny little gap in space. And they're like, I'm not waiting on you. I'm getting over the pit.
That's reminiscent of Seb Vettel at, I believe it was China in like 2017, I think, when he passed like 3 cars of the pit entry because they all thought they could just trundle along. He just said, see guys, I'm going for it because the line's not there yet. So yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on the pony. Oh my goodness, we have so many cars in the pits. Dom Duran, Nordstrom, oh my goodness, Kai Manperson, Travis Robinson, oh my goodness,
Gustavo Sanz and Latorre.
Sanz, yep.
Oh man.
So yeah, we have 6 drivers left to pit.
It's havoc. We've got a 0.1 second gap. This is Barrera chasing Ramirez for P29. This is P last that we're on board with the Ferrari in towards the inside of 130R. And again, thinks better of it. But this is the kind of racing that we're talking about. This is for pretty much dead last at this point, and they're still fighting. They don't care. This is on pit exit. We're seeing Andrew Wilson and Bailey Kish going at it a little bit. I think Kish is going to have the better of this one, but you can see the pit stops are coming out in full force, and it is just wreaking havoc on the midfield.
This is silly. As we've been, Mia Rose pits from P2. I was about to call it that gap. The gap was 7.5 seconds for the pit. So I would imagine Michael will want to be the last driver to pit, but I don't think he's going. Oh, Peter O'Brien pits as well. I don't think he's going to wait super long after this to pit, just because of the tire issue. If you don't pit close to the halfway mark, then you don't make the best use of both tires, but as well as you don't want to give up any possible advantage to the chasing cars. And Victor Diaz, Max Simons are in, so yeah, we are just missing Guzman and Benning. I think if I had to guess, Michael will pit this lap. But yeah, he's a smarter, better driver than I am, so maybe he stays out a little bit.
Pat Lehman, if I'm not mistaken, that was the sound of him chasing second gear on the exit of Spoon, which has not necessarily been the favorite choice for the McLarens on the hot laps. I think it might be the race fuel difference. I see Nate Specht is only 0.1 seconds behind Timothy Flamger. Now, this is a sight you don't see often. A McLaren giving an Aston a run for its money in the straight. But Specht must have gotten a mighty exit out of the chicane, and Flamger might have some difficulty keeping this one behind, but he will indeed just about. Specht's
I wonder
still fighting for that spot.
Happened. Specht was 2 seconds slower in pit lane than Flamger. I don't recall if they were that close, but yeah, Specht lost position, then Victor Diaz with a stop and go 30. Guzman pits. I don't see Michael. He is heading across close to the pit lane. I think it's coming because I think he had caught lap traffic, and he is in the pit lane. So that is all of our scheduled pit stops done.
While that was happening, that was a mighty defense there by Bailey Kish. Took the inside line for turn 1 and somehow made it work. That stop go 30 does hurt for Victor Diaz.
No, that's a race killer. Because that's gonna be about a 90-second-ish penalty for Victor. Yeah, that'll drop Victor to the back of the field. That is, you hate to see that.
It was
having a good race, almost up in the top 15.
Oh, for Diaz, I mean, I think they were in the pit serving their stop go 30 now, or am I crazy? No, it must have just been my my ACC taking a minute to update there. It had showed initially that they were in the top 10 or so, which I don't think was correct. I just saw Gustavo Sanz just lost 2 positions to Brian Ryder and Roy Kay, and I don't think that was on merit of the 2 drivers behind. Gustavo Sanz on an invalid lap, presently speaking, and 10 seconds or so behind one of the cars that he was just overtaken by, which leads me to believe that there was some sort of a not insignificant adventure into the runoff.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that and see what I can find out.
Seems like the race has finally calmed down just a little bit, but we still do see a fair few small gaps. Max Simons trying to get more involved in a little bit of battling, but Victor Diaz pulls in to serve that stop go 30. So no major surprises. What have you seen?
Coming out of the S's, the last corner of the uphill left-hander, I know it has a name. Dunlop. Got out onto the grass and spun.
I have been there before.
Buddy, we all have. That is so easy to do there. Yep. Guzman with the drive-through and B30, that will have to be for track cuts. And serves it immediately.
I was about to say, this stage in the race, getting a drive-through from P30 basically just means that you are driving up until the point you reach your minimum laps completed to still earn points. If you, if indeed you do care about that.
Or it's keep driving in case anyone maybe hits some penalty numbers and maybe gets DNF or anything like that. But yeah, at this point you're driving for pride.
Exactly. Talking about
we love to see that.
Talking about some stories that haven't really panned out so far. Jacob Palmieri is actually down into P15 now, which after all of the pit stops, I suppose it doesn't make sense that there's a little bit of a shuffle in the order, but was he not up in nearly the top 10 earlier on? What happened?
He was at the very least up to 14th.
Oh.
I think he was close to 12th.
I think I see what's happened. 38 seconds time stopped in the pits is the longest of anybody in the race by a margin of 2 seconds or so.
He did have contact with a couple cars, so maybe just opted to fix the damage.
May have just missed their pit box.
Or could have gone long in the pit box.
I mean, either way, I think an optimal pit time here, a time stopped, I should say, is 32 or 33. So losing 4 or 5 seconds in the pits is a long time.
Yeah, the perfect stop time here is, pit time is 63. So yeah, it's gotta be, he didn't have a good stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, 38 seconds stop. So yeah, either went deep or fixed damage.
Which is rough, obviously. Oh, wait a minute. Did I just switch off at the worst time? Was Jacob Palmieri? I think Landon Drebes had a bit of a spin up at the rears there. It looked like he was about to head off the track for just a moment, but I think I might be seeing things. But talking briefly about Palmieri, of course, 5 seconds. I just want to iterate for anybody who might not be familiar, which I think is nobody, but just for the sake of anybody who might be watching it back for whatever reason, 5 seconds is a lot of time to think about how many laps you have to put in a solid time and really take the maximum amount of the track you possibly can every single lap, right? It's so much time to lose because building up 5 seconds on track is insanely challenging.
Yeah, especially with a field that's this tight. Michael Manning has our fastest lap of the race at 58.792, so effectively 58.8, which is 0.4 better than the next fastest lap, I believe. But even like best to worst in the field, that's still like maybe like a second. So to do that from the drivers that you're fighting for position, I mean, yeah, it's a tenth with this type of field. Even then, it's not the 10th or whatever the 2/10, 3/10. It really comes just from the dirty air.
Yeah, I mean, if we talk about qualifying times, right? You know, we would see a difference in, you know, of course, if you exclude Michael Menning, you know, the difference is probably like 1 second for the entire field here in Division 1.
Yeah, that's what you would typically see. I think for most splits in SRA, the lower splits can be a little bit bigger because, you know, just the gap of familiarity with the game can be bigger. But yeah, in these higher splits, you don't see a humongous spread. It's really mostly down to during the race, drivers fighting each other and slowing each other down through that.
Oh, what have you seen?
I thought that Aston was going to go a little bit wide in Dagner 2, but they held it. At least in Al Gaib there in Dagner 2.
All right, well, that's something I did not expect to hear today, but there we are.
I love Dune. It's great.
Gonna send that clip to one of my friends who's a massive fan, massive fan of Dune. Shout out to Caleb. Checking back in on the leaders real fast. It's Michael Menning leading up from Mia Rose about 6 seconds down the field, and then 7 seconds down the field from there is Mr. Sir rounding out the podium. Jeremy Mercer
I think we can stop right here. We can stop right here because these guys are. Oh my goodness, they are within 4 cars within a second right now.
It's a fair reason that we don't really talk about them. They're the leaders and practically the main characters of the story, but it's just so uneventful at the front when we've had so many challenging and interesting fights further down the field, including this one. Jeremy Mercer, I mean, this is the first driver who's not on the podium, and look at how much attack they are being subjected to right now. Timothy Flanger, followed shortly by Nate Specht and Dominic Duran, all within a second of each other.
Yeah, this is, I almost said the best of the rest, which would be kind of insulting because these guys are absolutely throwing out heaters left and right now. I mean, they're all in the 59s, just on race pace. So I mean, they're fighting for their lives right now.
Yeah, they're running race pace that is faster than my best ever time at this circuit.
Yeah,
which, you know, I'm talking like I'm on quality fuel. I'm on fresh tires. I'm on exactly optimal pressures. No other cars on track. No nothing, and I can barely even touch these times.
Yeah, I mean, these D1 drivers are just dummy fast, and it. I mean, we love it because they put on an absolute freaking show every week. I mean,
they do.
Like we said, it's 4 drivers within a second of each other, all doing mid to high 59s, and they're just looking for that absolute crack in someone's armor and just saying like, oh, you're going to make that tiniest little mistake. I'm just going to ruin your race because of that. These guys are incredible.
That was almost a little bit of a moment there. Omar Escorcia and Andrew Wilson stuck up here behind Bailey Kitchen. I can only imagine that Wilson is probably going to get tired of staring at the rear wing of this Lamborghini before too long and try for a slightly aggressive move into that hairpin. We've got 18 minutes left of the race, so it's not necessarily a kick in the pants to get a move on. Of course, the gap ahead of Kish is 5 seconds to P18. So it's likely that if you do end up getting that spot, you're not going to be looking at much more. So you want to try for that high percentage move to stay ahead and not open yourself up to attack from behind in the event that things go poorly.
Yeah, and we've gone away from, we have to give a huge shout out to Bailey, who's up 11 positions, started P30 up to P19. That is an incredible movement. I mean, Matt Lehman is the mover of the race from P28 to P12 right now, which is insane. That's insanity. 16 positions in this field.
Yeah. Oh, there's much else to be said about it, and of course there had been some couple of I won't say tearjerker kind of stories for drivers so far today, because I feel like it's been mostly well, I think there's been one driver who's been turned around. I can't remember who was the victim, but I remember there was one driver that got turned around at one point at the final chicane.
Oh, man.
Apart from that, it feels like it's been mostly driver error or passes on merit that have been defining the race.
Yeah, I'm sure we've missed some door bangings, you know, which is natural in a GT3 series. But no, I think as far as big incidents go, there haven't really been many. Knock on wood, which I'm doing right now. No, just our drivers putting on a show. And I mean, Michael Manning's got the gap stretched back out to 7.5 seconds again. But I mean, yeah, this group right here is.
This is the battle for, well, as you mentioned, the best of the rest here.
P4 essentially.
It is, yes. Every single one of these guys, especially Dominic Durant, who lost position on merit to both of Flamger and Specht earlier on in this race, who actually, hang on, hold the phone. Andrew Wilson just lost a position to Omar Escorcia, and the gap looking quite large. I think that was a wide moment there for Wilson, which may just be another one of those simple driver error type of moves.
Yeah, I'll put an eye on that and see what happened.
Do keep us updated, but
oh no, I did the stupid thing.
What have you done?
The last time I was in the replay, I was fast forwarding at 8 times speed, so all of my lap times are now at 8 times speed.
Okay.
Great.
That seems
Great.
slightly unhelpful.
It's just an ACC thing. Yeah, he had a moment at the exit of Spoon, went out a little bit wide, and the other driver just slipped right through.
No surprises. They expect the gap 0.2 seconds. No opportunity for moving to the hairpin unless you are an absolute crazy man. And I don't necessarily see that happening, especially with so much pressure from behind. This is Jacob Palmieri being chased by Max Simons. Palmieri, who's moved down 5 positions already in this race. So it's yet another one of Jacob Palmieri's famous Division 1 outings so far this season. Is stuck over behind Guy Manperson, who just lost a spot to Landon Drevis and might now be losing another one to Jacob Palmieri. The overspeed is there for the Mercedes. He's going to try for the line on the outside almost surely. Leaves room for Guy, but there's not enough rotation on the front end. The drag race, though, easily won by Jacob.
Drive out of the corner. Oh my goodness, Jacob.
I thought Guy was going to have that one for sure, but somehow that Mercedes just turned on the extra little bit of traction, and the BMW didn't seem to stand a chance. Travis with a bit, or excuse me, Max Simons with a little bit of a wiggle there from the Porsche, manages to keep it away from the top of the BMW, and Guy Manperson is tumbling down the order.
That's incredible. I have the Andy from Parks and Rec, like the shocked face as he pans his face to camera. Like that's, oh my goodness, too wide. Oh,
no way.
Stay in it, Max.
But he's not done yet. He's not done. You gotta leave space. You gotta leave space, and Guy Manperson.
Max has got it. Max has got it.
The bravery. Guy Manperson did it in the S's earlier on with a phenomenal move, but Max Simons sticking at it on the outside of 130R, keeping the nose in for the triangle chicane. But Guy Manperson with the drag. Look at that. The BMW being towed along by the 992. The speed differential is insane. The 599 can't find the space. And it does look like Guy Manperson is going to settle in, presently speaking. You don't want to come under attack from those cars behind, so you're going to try for, I think, a bit more of a high percentage move. But what a sequence of events.
I am grinning like a maniac. That was so much fun to watch. Truly, that was incredible. Someone has to clip that, because that might be like the clip of the season. That was so awesome.
I don't even know what's going on anymore. So many small gaps still through the field.
I almost forgot we were commentating a race. I was just gonna like settle in to watch that battle.
This is the whole race. That is the problem. The fundamental problem that we have here is like I gotta be skipping around all over the place trying to find different battles. I could watch one single pair of drivers go at it for pretty much the entire race duration. It feels like we have these battles happening all up and down the field. Even down here for P28. This is Ramirez and Barrera. It's 0.3 the gap between them.
Yeah, nothing's still doing with the gap for P4 as we highlighted. There was a split little bit where they all had a 0.3 second gap to each other, which was fun. But yeah, Jeremy Mercer doesn't seem to have the ultimate pace of these other three behind. Best lap of the race for Mercer was a 59.7. The rest are in the 59.4s. But you don't have to put your ultimate pace out at Suzuka to keep a car behind. But I mean, Flauncher is all over the back of Mercer.
Flanger probably waiting for one of those opportunities in the straight where he can just get that slight better exit and make a move.
At this point, you just kind of have to force it, I think.
This is a move that didn't look very forced. That was Latore being passed, and Nate Specht. Oh, Dominic Duran is past Nate Specht, who's just had it off. As soon as I switch away from the cam, the number 3 car goes wide.
I was about to say, as soon as we switched from that, it looked like there was something happening there. And of course, these guys, they can't be respectful at all, and they can't just do it when we're watching.
And then Omar Escorcia lost the position to Bailey Kish, or at least they were starting to fight it, because I believe Kish was in front before then, so they started getting into a scrap, of course, as soon as I went to go look at that. We can't rule out the possibility that Duran might have gotten up on the inside door of Specht and caused a little bit of a moment. But now this does beg the question, with that tiny little bit of a gap opening up, will Flanger try for a lower percentage move against Jeremy Mercer in the interest of just getting it on while the car behind can't make an immediate response attack?
Yeah, I think so. And I would, if I'm Flanger, I wouldn't go for anything stupid, which Timothy is a much better driver than do something stupid. But no, too far back.
If you can get the chicane just right, I mean, that McLaren is very good at holding the speed, but if you can get the power down, oh, it's a bit of wheel spin, and that's pretty much put it in the grave. That's it.
Yeah, I mean that gap grew through the chicane there. At this point, if you're Mercer, you just gotta drive your line and don't make mistakes. The pace differential isn't big enough to where any of these cars from behind can really get by.
I have to say, though, I really hate the way that you said that, Adam. Just drive your line and don't make mistakes. It's that simple, guys. Just...
Yeah. Someone post the Ryan Yee PowerPoint.
If you want to win the race, just go faster than the other cars.
Yeah. That's what I do when I want to drive, because I just do everything perfectly.
Oh, whoa. All right, just caught up on that
Porsche
one.
moment.
This is Jacob Palmieri's cam with Landon Drebes just in front, who's taking a little bit of the grass on the inside line of the second S there. It does look like, or I guess that's the first S. Either way, Landon Drebes will stay ahead on this one. As you mentioned, yes, it is a Porsche moment. Fortunately for Landon, the 992 is rather strong at getting the front end pointed exactly where you want to get that little bit of power rotation, and is able to expand that gap just a little bit as Jacob Palmieri looks to make an attack and try to return in towards that position where he started again. Grid 11th, currently in 14th, so it hasn't really been a race to write home about for Palmieri, but it certainly has gone better than both of Barcelona and Imola in so far.
I mean, I think just for the sake of his season, a top 15 is still a good result. But obviously, when you look at the rest of the gold field, considering we have gold from 1st to 12th, it's not an ideal result, but I think just getting a top 15 in this field, it feels great. I had a singular top 15 at my time in D1, and it's like the best I felt my entire life. It felt amazing.
Well, this is his chance. Had to tap the brake just a little bit through 130R. Very challenging corner to follow closely through. But a little bit of luck on the chicane, and that's a bit of a missed apex there for Landon Drebes. Jacob Palmieri might have this one, but doesn't necessarily look like it now.
I almost feel like Jacob was a little bit too close in 130R there. No, I mean, it's impossible to judge, that the driver in front might have a little bit of moment. But yeah, I think if Jacob were a little bit further back, wouldn't have had to have checked up and maybe could have thought into the Casio Triangle, but I mean, it's still hard to tell.
I mean, from our camera, right, we can say all manner of different things, but
Sure.
it's impossible to know.
Well, we said all kinds of things on Saturday, and about 90% of those things were wrong, so...
Yeah, well, that was an endurance race. We're allowed to be wrong during endurance races. That's pretty much just a podcast with cars driving around in the background.
Yeah, someone pointed out, like, you guys were really wrong about the tire choice. It's just like, dude, we got no idea what's going on the track. We were doing our best.
Which does feel a little bit ironic, seeing as how, I was driving in that race. And
Yeah, well, at that point, you were done, but yeah.
This is
Yes,
true. I don't know. I
amazing.
mean, you're a Division 2 driver. I'm a Division 3 driver. I feel like we should at least know a little bit about it, but apparently not.
Yeah.
No.
We do know a little bit, but we don't know it all.
Never really can. Timothy Flanger. Potential run here against Jeremy Mercer in front. Goes well wide at 130R on the exit, and I think that's going to be the end of the story for this lap. With 6 minutes and 58 left to go.
Oh my God, I was about to say, we're under 7 minutes. Oh, these races just fly by.
They really do.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I was going to point this out. O'Brien all over Marecki.
Here goes
Yeah.
Flanger.
Oh, he goes.
Finally, the potential.
Oh, no!
Contact! And Williamson.
Oh, that was a...
Mercer. Oh no. Duran and Spence, both big gainers in that.
Oh.
Flanger. I don't know who's the blame.
Did Dom
for that
hit
one?
Mercer? Did Dom hit Mercer, though, is the question.
I don't think so. It was hard to see. The camera was going all over the place on the helicam. It tries to track drivers as they go through, so I was trying to switch back on to the right target.
I'll check it. I don't. It looked really close.
That looked difficult to call. I think Flanger deserved a little bit of space on the inside on that one, but we're not stewards. And apparently we don't know what we're talking about on the evidence of what you were just talking about a little bit earlier. So we'll leave that one for the admins to decide. What have you seen?
Dom was so close to hitting Mercer. I'm not kidding. It could not have been closer.
Speaking of barely even being closer, the 114 here, Peter O'Brien against Eric Marecki. They're trying their damnedest to get through here. That's a great way to punctuate a close race, though. I mean, that is the kind of gap that drivers are going to start setting it for this late in the race, and it just so happens that Flanger and Mercer ended up getting bit.
Yeah,
go around.
If you're Flanger, I think you had to go for that move. And I do believe there was overlap. I won't try to steward that. My best guess, I would say, it's a racing incident. It's two very competitive, highly skilled drivers going for the same position and the same area on track. But it's an Al-Gaib.
I saw that as well.
Yeah, no, that incident, I think this, if that goes to the stewards, it will be a hard one to make a call on.
If it goes to the stewards,
Well,
as if there's any doubt. I mean, they're already probably looking at it right now. I'm assuming that some of the admins are in the Twitch chat at this point in time.
No, like Dan Kranz on vacation and just spider sense is just tingling already.
He wakes up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat. Timothy Flanger just ran into the side of Jeremy Mercer. This is
no!
Palmieri spun around now by Max Simons. And that's going to be loads of positions lost for him, too.
Man, they were both having such good races.
Turn 1 claims another victim in the fullest of moments. Palmieri just lost, I think, 4 positions out of all of that. Max Simons down 3.
It is a hard corner to judge an overtake on, just because of how fast it is. iRacing for the GT3 series was at Suzuka a few weeks ago, and I did some races there, and I had an incident at turn 1 that was kind of similar. And yeah, it's just hard. It sucks.
That was a bit,
Brian with
was a bit
wiggle.
active, indeed. As somebody in the chat did mention, you know, Dominic Duran stocks are up now with all the incidents that have been going on now.
Yeah.
You had Mercer and Flanger move down the field, and now Palmieri moves a little bit out. I've just seen Gustavo Sanz getting past Brian Ryder much further down the field. It looks like it might have just been a little bit of an off for Ryder. That or some sort of a contact, some sort of an incident in Palmieri is going to get past Simons. I think Simons is going to let this one happen.
He lifted for sure.
Is understandable. Probably thinking that he was at fault for that incident. And would I say that he is not at fault? I would not say that. Again, we're not the stewards.
Yeah, but again, great sportsmanship from our drivers.
Indeed. Gap starting to come down. Gustavo Sanz just losing a spot to Brian Ryder, which I think I was mentioning was the other way around not so long ago, and may have been a contact. So if they swap positions back there as a result of that, it would just be another example, which makes, I think, on every account so far, no advantage being gained off of a driver making contact with another, save for what I think was a slight door banging moment between Brooker Quigg and, oh my goodness, who was it? Was it Jason Allen earlier? I don't think it was. Was it Jason Allen?
It was Jason and Brooker. And then I think Palmieri gave, I was going to say Palmieri as well. Palmieri gave that position up at the Denver too after that door bang.
Hop on with
So yeah, I think from what we've seen, yeah, as far as contact goes, it's been a give the position back. And Max Simons with a drive-through.
Ooh.
Really, boy.
Max Simons, which is a driver who might be receiving a penalty at the end of this race, but we'll find out how that one goes. Travis Nordstrom is looking to move up one here against Timothy Flanger, who probably has a little bit of damage, trying to nose their way up on the outside of 130R, going to compromise the entrance there for the 119. But Nordstrom can't take the racing line because the Aston was in the way. Breaking towards the outside of the circuit is Timothy Flanger, and Travis Nordstrom is going to look for the run here. You pretty much have to make this pass on the pit straight. There's not a whole lot of prime overtaking opportunities here for Nordstrom. I'm going to look further up the field. This is Nate Specht trying on the inside of turn one. We've seen so many moves go poorly here like this in this exact way, but Nate Specht finds a load of space. Who spun out completely on their own. Or excuse me, it wasn't Duran.
No, that was somebody else.
I think that was Jose Guzman. That was Jose Guzman. I saw Duran move down the order on my race control. It was Nate Specht taking him, of course. But what a move.
Not to take away from Nate's pass there, Dom gave so much room.
He did.
And allowed that to happen. Didn't allow the pass to happen, but essentially left so much room that the pass could be possible. Which is kind of how you kind of have to have passes in turn one at some points. I think Dom Duran is thinking long term, not short term.
Indeed. Well, I mean, we're really thinking long-term. Ace thinking in the short-term. This is the race leader, Michael Menning, whose name we have not said for a hot minute here, leading the race right now on the final lap, was shown the white flag, the last cross over the start-finish line, and is going to be your race winner. Currently holds on to the fastest lap by 4/10 and then some. In fact, 5/10 even here for Michael Menning in the Ford Mustang GT3. No surprises here with a pole position. A race winner, the fastest lap, is going to take all 112 points. And you can see he's quite excited to be back on the top step and goes for an adventure over in the grass and in the barriers. A nice win there for Michael Menning. Miro is going to be coming up in P2 behind. I'm going to hop real fast now to Peter O'Brien and Eric Marecki as they're going at it here on the very last lap. Mr. Sir is coming up, though, in P3 to, I think, nobody's surprise, behind Mia Rose. So it's been a wonderful performance. Peter O'Brien's going to go well wide here out of 130R, looking for potential gap there against the 307 Aston in front. But unless Marecki makes a bit of a mistake, which he might have just done here in the final chicane in the triangle, it might be a bit of a drag battle here, but I don't think it's going to be the traction there for Peter O'Brien. And he'll stay behind, but round out the top 10 with Eric Marecki finishing just in front. And all of the action that happened ahead, we have Mr. Sir in third, Nate Specht taking fourth place with an overtake on Dominic Duran there on the last lap, who finishes in 5th on their own. Jeremy Mercer, Timothy Flemger, Travis Nordstrom, Eric Marecki, and Peter O'Brien, as I mentioned before. Rounding out the top 10, we've got a short train here in the midfield on the last lap, but nothing particularly close as they'll cross in their order, and that is the end of quite a fascinating race at Suzuka.
And interestingly, Max Simons didn't serve their drive-through and took the 30-second penalty anyway, which was, I think, the right call in that situation. Or no, was it? No, a drive-through at Suzuka is roughly 28, so serving it might have been the better choice. But that, again, that is perfect on the line. So maybe just taking the 30-second penalty was the safer call.
Well, one way or another, race delivered up until the very end.
Buddy, I'm tired.
I as well, and I gotta, as many people know, I do stay a little bit late at home working the night shift, and thankfully my boss was kind enough to allow me to come in late so that I could make streams like these. So we're probably gonna go ahead and cut it off here. So my apologies, we don't really have much of a post show for you today, but just before we do hop out, I want to shout out a couple of those drivers for making incredible drives. Lehman in particular, a name that we have not really mentioned so far this season. Lehman had a phenomenal showing. Nate Specht had a very good look today as well. Travis Nordstrom, I think one of my, well, I'm going to use the phrase biggest losers, but I'm saying that just because he had a P4 start and was not able to convert that into a top 5, but it still was a good race for him.
Yeah, and I think the Honda's biggest sin is it's not a great race car right now. So Nordstrom qualifying better than he finished isn't a huge surprise.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, goodness, this race, that was... I think I'm probably going to go back and rewatch this VOD right now because that race was so much fun. Or I can just I have the replay. I can just rewatch the replay right now. I don't even have to get up.
Maybe, but that it was a phenomenal race. Is as much as we expected, right? You know, Suzuka, beautiful racing circuit, loads of opportunity for passes. We saw a couple of amazing moves as well. Spoon and the S's, we even saw moves in, which was, I would say, unexpected, but a phenomenal one for Division 1, and that will bring us to an end. But before we go, it is worth noting more races happening tomorrow. Divisions 2, 3, and 6, is it? I believe,
yes,
are
correct.
Racing tomorrow night at 9 p.m. So if you want to see more, then you can come back here on the Twitch channel, or we have more links in the Discord for the Sim Racing Alliance, so you can go ahead and hop in there and find all of the places where they're going to be live with those races. I'm going to be featuring in the Division 3 race tomorrow. I'm feeling good about Suzuka. It was my only win ever in SRA, and I'm hoping to keep that 100% win rate as we move forward, Adam. But I don't know about yourself.
Bet right for the dub. I got money on it.
We'll see what happens.
We have underground betting going on.
Thanks so much for joining me tonight, Adam. Of course, it was a bit of an impromptu substitution for yourself. I believe you're usually on the Division 4 show, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Correct. I love my D4 boys and girls and lads and lasses and anything everywhere, wherever you are. But so happy to be on D1 for this evening to help you out. And as we said, we ran it back a little bit. But yeah, I want to get back to my D4 chaos.
Yeah, so if you guys want to catch more of Adam, he's going to be on the Division 4 broadcast next week. I'm going to be right here, though, next Tuesday, 9 p.m. And, oh my goodness, the next track, Adam. Oh, the next track. It's, I want to say, but I think I'm wrong. Is it Spa for next week? It is Spa-Francorchamps for next week. It was in the wet last season, in the dry this go-around. Legendary circuit, that one. And I'm sure it'll make some fantastic racing just as it was tonight. So thank you so much for joining us. This has been the Sim Racing Alliance, and we will see you next week.
See ya.